Hello and welcome to Meet the Expert. Today we have the wonderful Christina Smith talking to us about beliefs and taking that step into the unknown and really finding yourself and connecting to a future and a vision that is vibrant and beautiful. So stay tuned and I will see you on the other side.
I feel you, I want you, I know your touch is all I need. I'm waiting, you're shining.
Hello and welcome to Meet the Expert. I'm so pleased to have you here. I'm Jeani and today we have the wonderful Christina Smith. Now Christina Smith from christina-smith.com. Christina makes marketing simpler for coaches, healers and service-based entrepreneurs. She is the marketing director of Women Within International and a marketing strategist in her own creative business. So Christina, I am so pleased to have you here. I met Christina last year, was it?
Yeah.
We went on the Inviting Shift Summit, which you can find at invitingshift.com. And I just want to give you a massive welcome and say hello and thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me. This is so exciting.
Yay.
Yes.
So Christina, what we want to know is your journey to becoming where you are now. We're looking at four tips and inspirations that you can give the listeners that have really propelled you into the life that you have now, and any wow factors you can leave our listeners to take home with them.
Absolutely. It's hard to tell you like where my journey started, right? Because the whole thing is kind of like interweaved, but I'm trying to think of like major shifts that have brought on the things that I really wanted to see in my life. And I think that that's what's really important. So I was just starting to date my new husband. And I was probably in a really bad place. I was in a really bad place. And I hated my job. I hated going. I was the type of girl who would go in crying every day. And my life was pretty miserable. But I was so used to it because that's just kind of how I was raised, that it didn't occur to me that it could be any other way. And then one day, so the first big kaboom in my transition was my son was going to therapy because his father had moved far away, and he saw him and everything, but it was a transition. So I got him therapy, of course. And then one day his therapist said, Christina, you know, your son's going to be better when you are. So why don't you go get a counselor? And it wasn't the first time she had asked me if I had a therapist or a counselor to talk to. But when she put it that way, it suddenly changed it from, wow, I need to take care of myself, to, oh my God, I'm messing up my kid. And that's when I started going to therapy. And I grew up in a home where, you know, therapy wasn't really a normal thing. It was, you know, for crazy people. And what good was that going to do? It's not very practical. So it took me a while to get used to just going and telling somebody about all my garbage from the inside. And then about a year after that, I went to a Woman Within Weekend. And you had mentioned that I'm the marketing director now. Well, that Woman Within Weekend, I guess it's been, 7 years. It was so impactful for me that it started opening my eyes to things that I had never seen. Because as we grow up, we only have that one version, you know, that one journey or one experience to really step into. But if we can start breaking those little barriers, you know, what if I decided that I could, you know, make boundaries around my family so that I didn't feel taken advantage of? Or what if I could, you know, do things that, you know, I never thought I could do or should do, right? It was taking all those shoulds out of it. And when I said, when I took all the shoulds out of it, it made it a lot easier, you know, what was good for me. So that was the one thing, is, you know, really opening up my perspective to understand that there's other ways of seeing things. And it seems so simple, but I mean, I find ways today where my, childhood or the messages I got when I was a kid are still impacting the way I make choices. And it can just be in tiny little things, like I always buy the cheapest of everything, even though, something maybe more expensive would be better for me or whatever. But because I've learned to be frugal, like I've had to rethink how I make decisions, just like from, the moment I wake up, what am I going to choose to do when I get out of bed? And that was really impactful. And I want to tell you that the first piece, that being open to possibilities, is really great. And I talk about this in my book, Inviting Shift. I love transition. I'm like a transition addict.
Yeah.
But the aha is a really great moment. However, it comes with a lot of work behind it. And I think that's where people sometimes forget, right? And that's where our beliefs can go back to whatever they were before. So say I've always lived in a poverty-stricken kind of mindset. To see abundance is really difficult, for somebody who's, worried about where their next meal is going to come from, or if they were going to have a home.
Yeah.
But to step into abundance means that I have to then question all of those other things. Like if I, spend 50 cents more on the thing that I really want rather than, this other item, will I be happier? And sometimes I am, And so I've had to question those beliefs, right? Or even the belief that I have to, work 2 jobs if that's what it takes in order to survive, or, that it takes really, really hard work and not taking care of myself. Oh, that's a big one that came to me is that, if I work 14 hours a day and, just minimize my self-care, that I'll be able to get more done. And these are all like myths that I've made up, or not myths that I made up, but stories I've heard, right? Because I live in the US, so American dream is you work really, really hard, and especially if you come from like lower middle class, it's just like, oh, you're just not working hard enough,
Yeah.
And there are times where you could be working really hard, making a huge impact and just not getting a financial gain from it, or, a huge combination of those things. But you have to start questioning. I had to start questioning my beliefs. Do I really have to work 80 hours a week in order to do really well in life? And what did really well mean to me, right? Because my very well does not equal my mother's very well. We have different aspects of what is good for us. So it's really, I went through my 20s and my 30s learning who I was. And then at this point, I was able to really step into it and be okay with it.
Wow, that's amazing, Christina.
Yeah.
It's so true, because how often do we see people that are, they're going about their everyday life living under the beliefs that they were bestowed on them as children? And I think sometimes people become so, not that they're comfortable, but they're so scared of change and not open to the realization that they can change, that they sit in that comfort zone, feeling really uncomfortable. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, and that is harder. I mean, sitting in that place where I would go through periods of depression and whatnot, that was harder. I mean, so changing your belief system is really difficult, so the end result is that I have a lot of the things in my life that I want. One other transition I want to talk about, though, at least, is my transition. So when, I found all these new beliefs and I was like, oh, I could really do it without a 9-to-5, right? And so I had been trained as a health coach because I wanted to cure my own health problems. So naturally, I was like, I left my corporate marketing job and I was like, I'm going to be a health coach. And it was good for a couple of years. I enjoyed the clients, but what I ended up doing was learning that I was actually really excited about helping my co-coaches, my friends and whatnot, with their marketing. So here I am doing all of their marketing, checking their stats and making sure that, whatever I implemented worked. That I was like, it came to a realization where I was running two businesses basically. And that was exhausting to me. And that was not, this is about the time that I was questioning, do I really have to work 80 hours a week to make, this entrepreneur thing work? Because you hear everybody say, oh, you have to hustle hard,
Yeah.
And I ask you to question that. If you're at home, question that. Because in that instance, I learned, I sat down for about 3 months and I was really, really thinking and focused on this, what am I going to do? And then 2017 came, and the word that came to me, I always pick a word every year, was simpler. So I just wanted to make life simple. And so I decided to go with marketing. And I mean, as soon as I was able to step out of that box and go, wow, could I really do this? Could I really run my own company? It was like, I just published this year my, my marketing website. I've had a health coach website for a while, but my marketing website. And it was so awesome because it's really taken off. And that's because I started saying, well, I'm not going to work when I don't feel like it or I don't feel well. And if I'm feeling stressed, I'm going to walk away and I'm going to slow down. I'm going to do less things. And because I'm doing less things, I'm becoming more and more abundant and more able to take on more stuff, which is pretty awesome, So I just, and this never would have happened if I never would have questioned, because there is value in working really hard. I'm not trying to, disagree with that. I love the fact that my parents taught me to work hard and really strive and be motivated and, inspire myself to do more, and not at the risk of your own health, of your own,
Absolutely.
spirituality, or all the pieces that you need to be a whole human being. That is not helpful. It's not going to bring you a happy life. I promise you.
No,
It'll make you
Chris,
really sick.
I know you touched on something. It's so, which, massive really for people to be aware of is, they keep pushing and pushing and pushing and wondering why they're not getting anywhere. And it's like trying to swim up the current, keep going. If you just let go, you'll float to where you need to be. It's about giving yourself that time to just center back into yourself and say, I'm not doing this because right now I need to take this time for me. And when you open yourself up that way, you allow yourself to attract more abundance, more flow, and start really manifesting the stuff that you need. That's fantastic, Christina. I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was that flow. So anytime I feel like I'm really heading up against something, I'm like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to hit this door yet. Maybe I need to wait a little bit. Maybe I just need to see. And that's not to say that I don't take risks, but I think that we can feel when we learn to tune in. And that's what I've done in the last 7 years, is really, I mean, how many times a day do we ask ourselves, wow, how am I feeling? And that's something that's huge in Woman Within, is that we're always checking in with our body. How am I feeling? Because however you're feeling, tired or angry or, discouraged, whatever, that's impacting what you're putting out into the world. It's impacting your thoughts mostly. I mean, so it's good to be aware of all of that. And when I'm aware of that, I can tell the flow better, as I can tell when I'm hitting my head against a wall and it's like, okay, well, that wall isn't meant to be moved right now. And it brings me into one more point that I wanted to talk about, that transition that I think is really, when it comes to that marketing piece, when I decided to step into marketing, it was like, I'm around a lot of healers and coaches a lot because of, Woman Within, and because, those are the people that's my tribe, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was always like, well, I want to be a beautiful healer like that woman, or I want to do that. And it's like, sometimes we see what other people's gifts are and we become jealous and we don't really take advantage of our own gifts, So this year is, when I went into marketing, that was me, some people might say staying in my own lane.
Yeah.
But that was me staying with my trueness, I love the marketing piece and I love working with coaches and healers, so I can do that. And really what I wanted, when I look at my overall mission, we come up with one for Woman Within. It's to, really help others, create space for others to have transformation and healing and everything. And so by me helping other people market, like I'm helping them get all of their gifts out to a lot of people, and a lot more people that they would have without me, so that is really, I'm still living my mission. I've just found the way where my gifts kind of really match up with what I like and what the world needs. So if you're in one place, if you're thinking, oh, I need to be a baseball player, sometimes we don't need to be the baseball player. Sometimes we end up owning the team. You know what I mean? Like,
so would it be fair to say that by stepping into your power, you enable other women to step into theirs?
Yeah. And I get to reflect on them, I get to reflect in their brand who they really are. And I think that that's what a lot of, especially healers and coaches, they don't know how to project in marketing, all the beauty that they have, so my ability is to be able to, put them in a really great light and all the gifts that they have so that they can get to as many people as possible and heal people and, help them with inviting shift, as I always call it.
And that's so true, because, we live in a very male-dominated world, society, and a lot of the marketing nowadays is very, from that masculine point of view. And being a healer myself, I understand how imperative it is to find people that can really relate to the energy and the flow and the femininity that we want to portray in our businesses, and get out to the world to, match our right, the people that we want to work with, our tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that my tribe is different because they work differently. I worked in the corporate world before, where everything was very, like you said, masculine, very task oriented, very checklist. Now I work with coaches and healers, and it's like every time we want to make a decision, they're like, I'm going to have to sit on that and see what spirit says. And it's like, and I've let go of that warrior that's like, we got to make a decision now. But it's good. It's fantastic when you really, and that only happened though because of that beginning of that journey where I started going, well, what if this was possible? What if it was possible that I could leave my job? I mean, that took 3-4 years for me to actually think about, because I was raised in a paycheck kind of family. You go work, get a good job, and you work there for the rest of your life. And that was challenging to me. It was really challenging. And it was just little steps. It's not like one day I was like, oh, I can really do this. I think the day that I decided to actually put my notice in, it was like, I think I was having a breakdown. I was like, this is the last damn breakdown I'm having about this job.
Oh, bless you. But that's what it's about.
Journey.
It's about taking those little baby steps, isn't it?
Yeah. You just have to keep going. Okay, well, if I open up my view this much, how much is it? You know what I mean? And then it's just a little bit more and a little bit more. It's not like one day I woke up and had amnesia over all the perspectives I had before in life. Like these were all, like I say in my book, I talk about five stages of inviting shift. We're always in different stages of shift depending on what part of our life we're looking at. And they're so interweaved that it's like, well, I couldn't have learned this lesson without those 6 lessons, And so when people say, what age would you go back to? I'm like, no way. I'm good where I am. I'm not reliving all that.
Definitely. Bless you. Christina, we're just going to stop, have a quick break, grab a drink. And when we come back, Christina's going to give us some wonderful tips and advice to give everyone to take away with them today. And I hope you're enjoying this, and I will see you after the break. Hello and welcome to the Pure Transformation University members area.
You can put some dye up on my face. mine too, and babe, I'll make you stay. Oh, I can miss you of your pain. Feel you give me love again. Round and round we go. Each time I hear you say, this is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life. Of my life. Oh yeah. The rhythm of my life. Won't you teach me how to live and learn? There'll be nothing left for me to yearn. Think of me and burn, and let me hold your hand. I don't wanna face whirling tears. Please think again, I'm on my knees. Sing that song to me, no reason to repent. This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night.
If you want to get yourself in front of our audience, then this could be your ad right here, right now. You will be able to get your message out to thousands of people within our marketplace. And if you don't have a video ad, we'll help you produce that too. It can be hard in this industry getting your message out to the right people in a place where they're going to have the time and space to listen to what you have to say. But this platform gives you the opportunity to do just that. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started right now. Email martin@everychance.net or contact us via one of our social profiles, and we'll get back to you right away with a way that you can get in front of thousands of people in this space, and we'll put our production team behind your next success.
Hello and welcome back to Meet the Expert, where we have the wonderful Christina Smith from Christina-Smith.com and InvitingShift.com. Christina's just been telling us all about changing her belief system and really moulding herself into where she is now. And I will leave it back over to you, Christina. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we just wanted to go over some tips about, how can you make transition in your life, and what are the pieces that are needed. In my life, breakdown was needed. And hopefully not everybody has to go through that. But at some point, I think that we all have, we hit some kind of, I wouldn't say rock bottom. It doesn't have to be rock bottom, but we hit some kind of point where man, I'm really tired of doing that. And I want to just say, if you can feel that in your body, there's something that wants to be changed, and I call that the, shift. It's that something ain't right kind of stage, and it. If you're crying on the way to work, something is wrong.
Yeah,
that's not normal, people. You shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, I mean, and for me, I had a lot of those, right? I had illness came up, right? My gut came up and was telling me something's wrong, and I'm really stubborn. Like, when I have a plan, I want to stick to that plan because it's really easy and it's really comfortable being in that uncomfortable space. So I really need a brick over the head. And for me, that was, that was going to the hospital 6 times in 18 months because I was really, really ill. And that's when I knew I had to change something. So I'm hoping that if you are tuned into your body, that you don't have to get to that point because it's not fun. But if you're feeling something in your body, listen to it, listen to what is it asking from you, and it can feel really uncomfortable. So we can we can start labeling it as wrong or bad or some kind of negative, and that's just not true. I invite you to look at those not so comfortable feelings as indicators that something's going on here, and look internally. Just keep focusing on it. It doesn't mean it'll come overnight and you're going to be like, oh, this is my problem, but start looking at it and start feeling when you get triggered. What are you getting triggered around? That really has a lot to do with it. So feeling your body is probably one of my biggest tips that has really, really helped me.
Absolutely.
Another one, is to get support. Support, it's really challenging to go through any of these transitions all by yourself. And I mean, you can spin stuff in your head for hours, just going and going and going and not really getting anywhere. And sometimes just having a place where you can speak it without being judged is really, really important. I talked about how I went to therapy. That was essential for me. I was a really closed down person. So there's no way I could have talked to more than one person about all of my shame and all of that stuff. However, after I went through Women Within, I also joined a circle, and there's open circles all over the world that women can join. And there's men's groups too, I'm sure. But there's women's circles all over the world that women can join, where they can go and they can express however they're feeling. And it doesn't have to be just those uncomfortable moments. So it's not like it's all just a depression fest. Some women come to celebrate things, so often, sometimes our kids are really good at something and we want to tell somebody, but maybe our friends' kids are not doing so well, or it feels like we're bragging, or, whatever. So we can go there and celebrate as well, because that's important. It's important to celebrate, and it's important to be seen celebrating, and be heard celebrating. So I would say support is whether you find that in a group of people, Alcoholics Anonymous, this is why they do so well, because it's a group of people that know the situation, they know how it feels, and they don't fix it. They're not there to fix it. They're just there to hear you and, offer compassion.
Yeah. And like nowadays, especially with the, the growth of social media and Facebook, there's so many different groups out there tailored specifically just for that purpose.
Yeah.
So, and I would definitely, back you up saying there, get support, and listen to your body, because it's fundamental for your health and for your sanity as well.
Yeah. And I mean, and like I said, so often we can go forever without actually stepping into our bodies. And when I sit in circle, it reminds me to go, oh, how am I feeling? I think as women, we're such caretakers, and we can take care of everybody else. And I can know how everybody else is feeling and completely never even check in with myself. Be like, well, how am I feeling? Oh, is that important? So it's just, it's important, and for a while I had a reminder on my phone that would go off every 2 hours. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? And in times of stress, I still do it, because when I feel like I'm getting cranky or tired because I'm overworked or whatever, I know that I can start getting snippy and not so pretty. And so it's like, I like to just be aware. Okay, Christina, you are really cranky right now. Maybe this isn't the time to speak up in that meeting.
But awareness is key. That's what, I'm like, anybody that knows me will know I'm always banging on about awareness. But when we come from a place of awareness of where we are, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, then we can really start making a change in our life for the positive, not just for us, but it impacts everyone around us as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to my counselor saying, when you're fine, he'll be fine. I mean, my child was just imitating the problems that I was having, and that was crushing. Like, I didn't want to impact his little being and his little journey by who I was. So when we can really see that, it it has a huge impact, I think, when we see how we're impacting others. And yeah, and that is basically my story. I do have one more piece, though, that I think is really, really important through the whole entire thing, was this phrase, is it true? Is it true? So we tell ourselves lots of stories in our head. We can tell ourselves all kinds of stories. And especially when shame comes into it, we can start, of course I'm a terrible person. Look at these 3 things that I did. You know what I mean? And yesterday I said this to that person. They probably misinterpreted that. All those stories that we kind of come up with. We have to start asking ourselves if it's true, because often it's our fear that kind of comes in and takes over. And we have to ask, is this fear, or is this, a critical inner parent? That's come up for me a lot lately, is that critical inner parent. And in Woman Within, we use archetypes. So for me, my inner critic is like this old lady. And this is how I try to treat her, because we can also go to this thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that Bob Newhart does this skit about being a therapist, but some woman comes in, she's like, I have this problem, I keep doing this thing, and he's like, okay, well, I can solve you in 2 minutes, just stop it. And she's like, what? He's like, you heard me, stop it, just stop doing that thing. And she's like, but I can't, I always want to, no, just stop it. And she's like, oh, just stop it?
That's really
it's
good.
so funny, like every answer is like, just stop doing that thing. And it's like, that's not it. So so fighting the inner critic isn't going to help, because what happens is he or she or it, whatever you want to call it, gets louder and louder and bigger. So by not listening to that fear, or not listening to that inner critic, we're not doing ourselves any favors. There's people who are like, oh, just drop fear and run, and it's like, that'd be really great. But I like it better the way that, was it Elizabeth Gilbert said it? I'm going to get this wrong, or maybe it was Brene Brown. But they say, fear has to come with me. They're on my bus with me. I'm pretty sure it was Brene Brown. They're on my bus with me, and that fear has to come with me, because it's part of me. I can't just leave it behind. She goes, but I do have the ability to say, shut up. Like, and give it that, I have the ability to say, you're allowed to get on the bus, but you're not allowed to talk. Like, that's my boundary. But for me, it's even less aggressive than that. I mean, even though just silencing them isn't very aggressive, I look at it like it's a little old lady. And she's like my old granny, and she loves me, right? She loves me so much, but she's like just negative Nanny, right? She just wants to tell me everything that could happen, every fear. Oh, you can't do that. Don't get too big. All of those things that we tell ourselves, all the shame and all the bad things that could happen. She just loves to tell me that because she's afraid for me. And so I just sit her down in her little cottage, and put her down in a little rocking chair, and I cover her up with a little blanket, give her a cup of tea. And sometimes I say, go ahead, tell me what you have to say. And then she tells me all of her fears, and she gets all of that stuff out. And I go, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you want to keep me safe. And I honor her, and then I leave her little cottage. And as I leave that cottage, I get to choose on the way out, what is true? What do I need to take with me? And what can I leave here? What is just fear that I don't need to really worry about? And that comes down to, is that true? We use it. I use it so often when I feel like I'm getting in a victim place, where I'm like, oh, I feel like I have this choice, and I hate them both, And it's well, but is it true? All these things that I'm telling myself about these choices, is it really true? And sometimes they're not, they're just beliefs that we have, that if I don't work 80 hours a week, that I'll never be able to, really survive as a business owner. And that's not true. I mean, it's not true. It is if that's what we believe. We'll make sure we believe that's true. But I really invite people to start asking themselves, could the opposite be true? And that's a line that came from a salesperson, a sales trainer many years ago. Could the opposite be true? Could it be that I work 30 hours a week and I actually bring in more business than if I worked 80 hours a week? Could that be true?
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love the whole analogy of the little old lady in the cottage as well. You literally took me on that journey.
Oh, good.
That's
Yeah, we
brilliant.
have to be kind to her because there's information she wants us to know. You know what I mean? Sometimes there is some truth to those fears, and sometimes there isn't.
Yeah. And it's about not getting so wrapped up in that fear that it prevents you from moving on in your life.
Right.
And it actually disabling you, because, you know, I know from my own journey of constantly living in fear, it would get to the point where I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, because then she convinces you that, you know, last time you tried anything, it didn't work out, so you just best not do anything at all, you know. I mean, and if we lived by that, we would stay this small because we wouldn't do any of that. And so on the way out of the cottage, you can also say, yeah, it's true, I failed 3 times before and I'm going to do it anyway. You know, just because it's true doesn't mean that has to stop you.
No, it doesn't. That's so true. And often, like when we come from a place of failure, it enables us to grow. Like, you know, what is the worst that's going to happen? You know, you're going to fall flat on your ass. You can get back up again. You can get back up again. Oh my goodness. I could talk for hours about failure.
I know. Randy Pausch is one of my favorite people. He passed away a few years ago. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And he said, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted.
Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, wonderful. Christina, that was all just absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
So for our wonderful listeners who are enjoying this call today, to take away from this is really being aware of the beliefs that you're holding and where you're sitting in your life to where you want to be, and start challenging those beliefs. Be aware of those mind monkeys telling you that, you know, you're going to be a failure, you can't do it, and really start challenging them and step outside that comfort zone, because as scary as it is, it's always rewarding, always.
Oh, and it's so much better. Like, I mean, I'm so grateful for my life right now. Like, I have a life that I have crafted, you know, that I've actually decided is good. And let me tell you, it makes my mother nervous that I don't have a paycheck, you know, like, it's not like it was easy to explain to anybody else, but and my husband's been way supportive, you know, but it really has worked out. And it really can. You just have to start. It's really difficult, but you have to start challenging those beliefs, you know. And when you're making transition, one of the big things is when you're making transition, all of a sudden your gut goes, that's not right. There's some core messages that you have there that you just need to start questioning, you know, is that true? And like I said, one of those big ones for me was, I don't have to work 80 hours a week as a business owner, or I don't have to work harder to be okay. You know, that it's not because I'm not working hard enough. Because I think we can shame ourselves then. Oh, I'm not being successful because I'm not working hard enough. And you're working like 75 hours a week. It's like, yeah, you're working hard enough.
Yeah. And then you start digging yourself into your own grave then. Yeah. Beating yourself down.
Absolutely.
Easily done.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, Christina. Do you have anything else to add to our wonderful listeners today?
I don't think so. I just remind you to right now, while you're listening, check in with your body. How are you feeling? How are you?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Most important to me. And of course, you know, I am the marketing director of Woman Within. So I want to just tell you to go to womanwithin.org and check it out. If you are a woman, if you're a man, mkp.org is the brother organization. And they both have weekends and groups and circles all over the world. So check them out if you need some support in transition.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for being here and listening to us today and supporting Meet the Expert. We really appreciate you being here. And I hope that you've got some amazing nuggets out of this conversation today. And we will gladly see you back here next Friday. Christina, thank you so much for being on this call today. It's been absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. So much fun.